Good afternoon, everyone, or depending on what time you're going to watch this, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the Spanning Boundaries trainer session for our spring pilot program. So this is for the Spanning Boundaries program starting in March 2021, running until June 2021 with a last event in September when it comes to a final gala talking about the PAPs. We'll get to the PAPs in a bit. First of all, the Spanning Boundaries project is a co-funded Erasmus Plus Knowledge Alliance initiative of the European Commission. My name is Arne Meerman, I'm the CEO of UIN. We're the lead partner on this project. And we're very happy to be taking you through some of the key steps in terms of running this event. The Spanning Boundaries project started out as an initiative about crossing those boundaries between university and industry. Often we talk about ivory towers, we talk about universities as being individual institutions working in silos, and we require individuals, people in the end, to bridge those silos and to cross over between universities and industry. But we require people on both ends to maybe understand each other and speak the same language and transfer that knowledge to drive innovation from an academic perspective, maybe ensure that research finds its way into society, and to make sure that the students that we're trying to educate become employable or potentially also become employers, whilst at the same time, from an industry perspective, getting access to that same innovation, getting access to the resources and research capacity available within the university, and again, getting access to that talent potentially through internships, traineeships, but talent maybe just as well accessible as again, potential employees or part-time researchers, part-time in the university and part-time within our small, medium and large size enterprise. And really triggering that organizational change to make an impact onto our society and our economy. The program is going to try to do this in the course of, or trying to convey those competency, skills, and the knowledge required for this in the course of this 4-month program. And in between, the participants will be working on their personal application projects. Ultimately, it's really trying to break down the barriers between university and industry, because often that motivation is there, but it is the barriers that are sometimes hindering us. It's the language that we're not speaking to, that we don't speak the same language. It is maybe not having the right appropriate skills to be able to collaborate with each other. And I keep talking about people and we, because in the end, that's what matters most, which is the people. It's all about the purpose and of transferring research from university to industry, and again, industry accessing and that same research to drive innovation. Over the course of the next 2 hours, we'll be taking you through the program. Up next is Todd Davey, who will be talking to you a little bit about the Spanning Boundaries program and the content. After which we'll also be talking to you about the different roles as part of this program, facilitators, the mentors, the speakers, and what your potential responsibilities are. If you have any questions, you can ask those through the chat in this session. And of course, always feel free to reach out to us afterwards. This presentation will be shared with you just as well as the recording of this session.
Okay, thank you very much, Arno, for that introduction. So that gives us a bit of a background into the program itself, as in the general project and also the reasoning and rationale for that. But I'm here now to present about the Spanning Boundaries program, and specifically about how that's going to work with the spring pilot in 2021. My name is Todd Davey, and I am an Associate Professor of Entrepreneurship at the Institut Min Telecom Business School, which is a key partner within the Spanning Boundaries program. The information that we will be presenting today has been a result of building on the research that was done in the first part of the project, and then flowing into, okay, how do we create a program that enables us to develop the skills in academics, business people, and intermediaries to help them create these more effective boundary spanning relationships. So that's really where we are today. We've had over a year's worth of work go into this framework, which we're presenting today, which will outline the spring pilot, which will commence shortly. The aim of the Spanning Boundaries program is effectively to increase the amount of university industry cooperation between university and industry, and also to really specifically increase the skills that academics have as well as industry have to be able to create these relationships. In the supporting role, we have intermediaries who we will also be supporting through this program. They will be ideally also developing the sort of skills that help to bridge this divide between university and industry. The timing for the SPING program will be that the pre-program will actually be kicked off on March the 8th, but that will be recorded, so that will be available to anybody who's going to be commencing the program. The actual program itself will commence on March the 11th and run until June the 11th. We have a final presentation, so that will conclude before the summer break, but there will be a final presentation that will be taking place in September. So that will allow some further time after the end of the delivery of the courses for the participant to develop their project. I'll be speaking more about that shortly, and then presenting it at this final gala event on the 10th of September. Mostly the timing for the program will be Thursday and Friday sessions. There will be one or two, I think, Thursday sessions, but primarily Friday sessions will be the preference for the program. The amount of participants for this pilot, for this one, we are trying to focus on just having between 24 and 40 different participants. We've had quite a number of registrations already, over 70. So we might have to reduce that to a more manageable level just for the SPING pilot, because this is a pilot program. And so we're trialling a number of things in this part of the program. It'll be focused on just a European cohort, so primarily from the partner countries. From the organisations who are part of the consortium, their own countries would be the preference, and then outside of that but still within Europe. The participants themselves will be quite dynamic because, well, the cohort will be very interesting mix of academics, business people and intermediaries. And I guess that's the whole idea of the Spanning Boundaries program, is to bring these disparate groups together in a productive way. And I guess talking about the productive way, what is the sort of format that we will be using? Well, one of the aspects of this program which is essential and is a key aspect of it is the Keystone project that the participant will be undertaking. They will be undertaking their own, what we call a personal application project. Now, Baljan will be introducing that concept a little bit later, but effectively they'll be undertaking their own project and executing that during the life of the program. Another key part of the format which we'll go into is that there will be a series of seminars, masterclasses and workshops, as well as mentoring sessions, which will underpin the entire program. But we'll explain that in a little bit more depth to come in the coming slides. So the question about, well, who is this program focused on, and who are these spanning boundary agents that we're looking to encourage or to facilitate? Well, effectively, it's focused on the protagonists, which are those coming from an academic perspective or academic world, or those coming from industry. And I guess they're both looking to collaborate with the other. Now, some of these participants might have absolutely no experience in collaborating with the other, but some, it's expected that most will have at least some experience in that sort of collaboration. So that will again provide a bit of a diversity of, even within the groups themselves, about the sort of experience that they might have for the topic. So both the academic and the business protagonists or participants, they're likely to have a range of experiences of their own, so ranging from no experience at all to a moderate level of experience. For the intermediaries, they are also invited into the program, and they are those who are either employed within either the university or the business, or they come from outside of the two. So it might come from a government agency or a private organisation who is responsible for developing university industry collaboration. Now, they're not the ones that actually undertake the collaboration, but they are their primary job is to support and facilitate their collaboration. I think it's also really important, and we've taken it very seriously, to understand what are the sort of things that each of these groups are going to want to get out of the program. And I think it's really important as the deliverers of this program to understand what their interests are. Now, for academics, intermediaries and business, we actually undertook a survey to establish this. All three had the same sort of outputs that they were trying to get out of the program, which is to better understand university business collaboration, to develop a project of their own, and also to get contacts for developing university industry collaboration. When it came to, the sort of benefits that they wanted to get out of the program, they had some difference in how they responded, but basically academics are looking for relationships with industry. They're looking for potentially long-term, they're looking to get some publications out of it, but also then sort of funding or income opportunities that come from university industry collaboration. For the business, they're looking to get new collaboration opportunities, perhaps from the collaboration they'd like to get new talent and other connections, and also access to potential new products and services. The intermediary is looking to establish university industry collaboration relationships, advance their work, and then perhaps even get some sort of recognition for going through the program. When it comes to the longer term impacts that they're looking for, well, all three have said that they're looking for reputational benefits. All three have said that in some ways they're looking for some sort of societal impact. The academic has specifically said that they're looking for career prospects. The intermediary is looking for some sort of recognition that they've gone through the program and for the future and for their future career. And then the industry have specifically said they're looking for some sort of competitive advantage from this. But that gives you a bit of an overview as to who will be sitting in front of you or participating in the various activities of the program, and also their interests. But the question that follows that is, okay, so we have them in the program, but what sort of skills do they need as part of bridging these sort of boundaries, or spanning these boundaries? We undertook a very, very detailed exercise in the initial part of the project, where we undertook a series of research. So this was undertaken by Science to Business Marketing Research Centre out of Münster, Germany. And they and the partners helped to establish a set of masteries that we believe are related to the skills that you would need to execute this role of spanning boundaries, whether you're undertaking the collaboration yourself or you're supporting it. And through the scientific analysis, we came to understand and establish these different factors and these sort of attributes that we wanted to, or that we would need to foster within the participants. Keeping it really simple, what does that come down to? Well, effectively what we have is we've established that there are 7 different masteries of spanning boundaries, and also a number of attributes within each of those masteries. So, you need to know something, you need to understand something, or you need to be able to do something. So what relevance does this have? Well, effectively, these are the sort of skills that we're trying to engender in the academic or the business person who wants to collaborate, or also in the intermediary who wants to support this collaboration. How will this practically come into effect within the program? Well, the participant themselves will be undertaking a self-assessment on these masteries before, during and after And then naturally, we expect to see some sort of difference or improvement in these masteries and the attributes during the life of the program. That's I guess the whole idea of the program. But there'll also be a peer assessment. So whether it's through the buddy system that we'd like to create, or whether it's through the mentor, they will be assessing the participant as well, and they'll be doing that during the program as well as after the program. Which brings us to a third aspect. Okay, we've got the clarity around who is actually undertaking the program. We've got clarity around the sort of skills. Now, we didn't go into great depth. We haven't got the time today, but the sort of skills that they require. And the third question then is, okay, so how do they develop these skills? We're going to introduce you now to the Spanning Boundaries program, and this is quite a detailed framework, and we'll be stepping through to provide you with a really concrete view of how the program will be working. And I'll step it through in a consequential way. So in other words, we'll be working from the start of the program until the end, and you'll get to more or less see what the participants will be going through. Because the first element of the program is actually what we call the pre-program. Well, I mentioned that we'll be recording it on 8th of March, but the intention of this pre-program is that these are modules that will be available to the participant via video and provided via video. And depending on their levels of experience, they may want to interact with these modules. In other words, they might think, okay, I want to understand more about what is university business collaboration, or get an introduction to university business collaboration. But maybe they already feel that they've understood that and they've got a base level of knowledge, which means that they don't need to access these modules. So these are just a personal preference. If you would like to, if the participant would like to get a base level of knowledge, or thinks that they might need to see those before the program starts, then they will be available, but they'll be available before they start. Before the program starts, the participant will be asked to provide their personal application project, which is basically what the project that they would like to achieve during the life of the Spanning Boundaries program. That would be presented in a paper form. Well, I say paper form, not physically paper, but it'd be presented. So they'll be putting it into an online spreadsheet, and they'll be providing us with the information about the project that they wish to undertake. That will result in some PAP shaping. So the mentor will give them some feedback before they start the program. But then the official program will start on the 11th of March, which is a Thursday. There will be 4 sessions on that first day. There is an initial introduction to the program, but then we'll be having a masterclass on the basis of university business collaboration, and also on the university business collaboration ecosystem, a masterclass on entrepreneurial skills of the boundary standing agent, and then a seminar on the partnership approach. The day will conclude with what we call a fireside chat, which is basically a moderator interviewing somebody with experience in spanning boundaries. That will be hosted by different partners each month, so to speak. The initial kickoff will be a 2-day event, so that, as we can see now on the screen, that we have a Thursday and the Friday session. So the Friday session will include a workshop on how to scan your environment, another workshop on aligning your interests from the start. And then the final part of that day will be for the participant to present their personal application project. We will come back to this in a more profound way at the end of once the program's been introduced, but basically that will be a national event. So in other words, it'll be hosted at a national level. So if you're based in Spain, then it'll be held by the national partner. If you're based in Germany, it'll be held by the national partner, which is Science to Business Marketing Research Centre. If it's in France, it'll be IMTBS. So that specific event will be national, and the PAPs will be introduced at that level. So that's the initial kickoff event, which will be 2 days. That will be followed by an assignment, and Baljan will be explaining who will be undertaking those assignments later. The assignment will be one part of what the participant might do, but then all participants will be engaged in this mentoring program. And so on the week of the 16th of March, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the Tuesday. It can be any time during that week. The mentor and the participant will organise a 1-hour session together. All of this will be supported by the online platform. So the participant, once they've left that initial kickoff event, they will have access to the material that they require to move them to the, I guess, prompt them to do the assignment. It'll be also providing them with the material from that first session, and also how to contact their mentor and other information that is relevant for them. The second part of the program will be held on the 9th, that should be the 9th of April. And what we will be going through there is a series of both workshops and masterclasses. So the workshop itself will be the workshop on evaluating knowledge, opportunities and markets. And then the workshop, so the workshop itself will be the evaluating knowledge, opportunities and markets. The masterclass will be how to acquire resources for UBC. And then there'll be, again, a national level personal application project. Now, anything that you see in pink will be a national session. So any of the writing that you see in pink will be held at the national level. Everything else will be delivered online and will be delivered by one of the project partners. So that means that not each partner needs to deliver their own material, but except for just these sessions where the writing is in pink. The day will finish again with a fireside chat hosted by one of the national partners. And then there will be obviously an assignment, which is the asset mapping report, and then that will be followed by the mentoring session, which will be held on Wednesday, the 14th of April. Well, as I said, it'll be held in the week of Wednesday, the 14th of April, so there'll be some flexibility for the mentor and the participant. On Friday, the 16th of April, there'll actually be a one-day hackathon, and this hackathon or event will be run by Crazy Town, and it'll involve all the participants in this first iteration of the program. And the specific structure and format will be introduced once the program starts. The subsequent part of the program, following the first initial sessions, will be held on the Friday, the 30th of April. And the first part of the day will be a workshop, which is how to initiate partnerships. There'll be a masterclass on building a vision for cooperation, as well as another workshop on personal application project. Now, what you can see as we're going through the program is everything in in purple is actually a practical part of the program, and usually relating to their PAP. So again, we see the PAP featuring very prominently in the program, and that is obviously, again, as mentioned at the start of the program, is because this is a crucial part of the entire program. It's a keystone event that runs through the entire program and helps the participant not only with their developing their skills, but also taking them forward with their whatever activity that they defined at the start of the program, which is related to university business collaboration. Following that, we'll have a session on Friday, the 21st of May. There will be 4 parts to that. There'll be a workshop on how to negotiate in the knowledge and technology transfer space, a seminar on how to embed industry and education, a masterclass on how to manage knowledge transfer, and that will conclude with managing partnerships and knowledge project. The final part of the day will again be a fireside chat managed by one of the partners. The assignment following that will be to develop a specific case study. We'll be providing information about the assignments in a more detailed way, not today, but during the program. And then the final part of the program is run on Friday, the 11th of June. And here we'll see a combination of masterclasses and workshops, commencing with a masterclass on championing a UBC culture, a workshop on how to pitch your initiative, a workshop on measuring UBC outcomes, outputs, outcomes and impacts, and then concluding with another PAP session, which will be run at a national level. There will be a mentoring session that will be organised again between the mentor and the participant in June or July. Again, there's a bit of flexibility there. And that will be the final interaction before the final pitch, which is the gala event, which will be held on 10th of September. So what you can see through that entire program is that there's it's very modularized approach to the learning experience. We have specific days designated for each of the different sessions. There's a range of sessions, whether they're seminars, masterclasses or workshops, as well as fireside chats. But primarily, a couple of points I wanted to really make clear was that the mentoring is designed to run throughout the entire program. The online platform will be available throughout the entire program. But effectively what the participant is doing is attending these different events and these different sessions, with the primary focus being on improving their masteries of the Spouting Boundaries masteries, but also taking forward their personal application project, however they define it. Now, Baljan will be talking more specifically about the personal application project a little bit later to give you more of an idea of what that might look like. For everybody who might be presenting within the program, there's actually quite a detailed syllabus that has been developed for each part of the program. So whether you're, whichever part that you're aiming, that you'll be responsible for delivering. And the subsequent point that I think is also really important to get across is that everything will be actually delivered online in this first pilot project. So what that will open up is the opportunity for us to, and this was mentioned at the start, to have a complete European cohort. So in other words, we'll be having participants from right across Europe involved in this program. Each of these different sessions or modules will be delivered by one of the partners from the project, and they'll be delivered on what we'd say is a European level or a universal level. But then, as I mentioned halfway through presenting this, anything in pink with pink writing, that's a specific session that is just for at the national level. So that will be hosted by the partner within the project, which is operating in a certain country. So for example, in Spain, it might be University of Malaga. In France, again, IMTBS. And we will be specifically hosting a session dedicated to whatever the topic is that's in pink. I think that gives you an overview to the entire program. I'm just wondering at this stage if there's any particular questions that anyone has, or Baljan, is there anything that you would like to add into what I've presented?
Well, I think actually everything has been covered. But yeah, I think that the notion that we would have some of the session hosted on a national level is definitely something to keep in mind. But those would be only related in this specific case to personal application projects, whereby participants will be working together with their facilitators and potentially even with mentors as well, going through their own personal application projects, which I will then explain in a bit later. What do we actually mean by that?
There's only one other session where part of it will be delivered by the national partner or at a national level, and that is how to acquire resources for university business collaboration. And that's primarily because the funding usually happens at a national level. So there'll be a part that the national partner will be delivering. But otherwise, it'll be delivered at this, what we call a European level, and it'll be delivered by one of the partners, and all participants from wherever you are across Europe will be participating.
Maybe just as a small addition and a logical consequence of that, of course, is that at this round, so in this particular pilot round, all courses, workshops, masterclasses, seminars, and activities, if they're not the national ones, will be then delivered in English. This will probably be different in the second pilot test taking place from September, October 2021. But for this particular pilot test round, all the universal ones will be delivered in English. And the benefit, of course, there is, as Todd was already, what he just ended with, is that all the participants can also network with each other and exchange their experiences and perspectives.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to move on, I think it's important to also just explain a little bit about the background behind this program, as in what I guess the pedagogical structure of it. We don't want to go into it too deeply, but just wanted to give you an insight into how that was constructed, and Bojan is going to take you from here.
Thank you very much, Todd. My name is Bojan Orazbaeva. I'm a manager strategic initiatives at UIN, and I would be very happy to walk you through some further details of the program. And just like Todd mentioned, with that slide here specifically, we would like to actually take a step back and look at the entire process as a number of phases, as a number of logical learning leaps that we will take participants throughout the course, which will start in March and then will end in June, with the final event happening in September. But basically what we have here is a number of learning arches, whereby first we take the participants through a preparation phase, depending on whether it is needed or not. And below you can also see that we emphasize specifically which masteries we're referring to, because again, everything that this learning framework is built on is embedded in this research that we have undertaken before. And whilst the preparation phase is really focusing on strategy and vision, for example, and knowledge and engagement processes, then we will start building this understanding around further major concepts like university business collaboration, entrepreneurial ecosystems, for example, knowledge and technology transfer processes. Then we will invite the participants to take a step forward in terms of scanning and understanding internal and external environment, trying to understand what he or she is dealing with, and then and so on and so far. We will take further steps in identifying, initiating, implementing, managing, and improving collaborations, and basically all the spanning boundary processes. Well, this is just a visual illustration of what has been presented before. And just again to emphasize, everything is basically built around those masteries that we've been showing you right at the beginning. And as you can also see that all of these learning leaps are built around personal application projects, because basically you're starting from building and understanding, and then towards the end, we hope to get the personal application project already developed to a certain extent, whereby we can already speak about management and improvement of this kind of collaboration. And if you probably have noticed the green arrows, this is where we are again referring back to mentoring. That is also a very important element of this program. Thank you, Todd. We can go to the next slide. Yes, so another question that we would like to touch upon today is what actually the participants are expected to do as part of this program. Well, there are practically two ways on how the participants can take part and facilitate their own learning journey through our help. The first one will be around boundary spanning participation, which we call certificate pathway. And I will explain a bit later what does this actually entail. And another one, which is the full program really, is boundary spanning accreditation certification pathway. As you can see, this entails a number of different elements. which are, of course, attendance of compulsory sessions, completing a personal application project, participating in mentoring sessions for the development of personal application projects, participation in a hackathon, staff exchange, and submission of assignments for each module. So those are the elements that we have identified as a core. Upon validation, the knowledge that the participants will get as a result of the program. But as mentioned before, there are two ways on how a participant can take part. If the participant will just attend a number of compulsory sessions and then also complete the personal application project, of course, with the participation in all mentoring sessions, that would basically mean that these participants will be able to get a certificate of recognition. And this is in total 50 hours, as we could calculate. Whereas if the participants would like to get a full accreditation or certification, that would then basically mean that the participants would need to complete all of the elements that we have included into this pathway expectations matrix. Again, that will include compulsory sessions, PAP with mentoring, participation in the hackathon and staff exchange, and submission of all the assignments. We're not going very deep into details when it comes to the assignments here, but every assignment would need to be then submitted in accordance to the learning program that is going to be provided to the participants and all the facilitators who are going to be involved. But all in all, we do have around 8 obligatory submissions if the participants would like to get a full accreditation or certification as a boundary spanning agent. And yes, the elements like, thank you, Todd. The elements like personal application project, thank you, we can go to the next slide, is again, just to emphasize, is the cornerstone and really is the most important element, I would say, alongside all of the variety of sessions that are going to be provided. Personal application project, as the name suggests, is really a very practical element whereby a participant is focusing on personal, let's say, a professional problem that he or she would like to address throughout the program. And we call it as a keystone element, really, and this will run through the entire educational framework, operating really as a main learning vehicle, both for us, but also for self-learning when it comes to the individual learning experiences of participants. What does it practically mean? So all the participants are required to come into the program with already a more or less clear idea of what this personal application project could be. And the development of it would require at least 10 hours in program commitment, plus, of course, own time that would be required for the development of certain elements of this personal application project. Each participant will be supported by us through in-class interaction with other participants and of course facilitators and speakers as well, but also primarily through mentoring sessions. So mentors we consider as also one of the core elements and I guess main actors as part of our program, because these people are going to basically help and mentor participants on their personal application projects journey, so to say. And towards the end, when the program has, the project has already been developed, there's going to be a gala event that Todd has mentioned already and showed on the framework. But of course, there will be some other touch points. So at the beginning, as mentioned, the participants would need to present their idea. Halfway through, there will be a touch point. The participants will be reporting on their progress. And then in the end of the program, at the gala event, there's going to be a final presentation of all the personal application projects. The structure requires that we are requiring now from the participants when they are registering for the program is some personal information, name motivation for undertaking this project, the current situation, also why is it required, what are the primary objectives, who are the stakeholders that are involved, what are the activities that participants would need to undertake, some general planning around certain steps, expected results, challenges, and a project plan. Of course, all those things that then are going to take into a next level, I would say, when we will start with the program, because really, as mentioned already before, this is really the central element that will go through the entire educational framework. And that would be it from my side. Also, as mentioned before, please, if you have any questions, let us know. I saw already that Haptamu asked something related to the flexibility with respect to mentoring dates, whether there is a flexibility or not. Yes, definitely. This is something that Crazy Town is going to touch upon anyways. Otherwise, yeah, feel free to drop your questions in the chat.
Thank you very much, Baljan. And maybe before Miko and Tony from Crazy Town continue with taking us through some of the roles and other activities as part of the pilot test, just coming back to that slide that Baljan was sharing in terms of the learning arches and that framework. Those learning arches, that is basically also the same as the timeline of the training program itself. So you'd be going throughout the 4 months from March until June, you'd be going through those learning arches, and each day is 1 to 2 arches or spans over 1 to 2 of those learning arches. So we're with this program, even whilst you as a facilitator or a speaker or a mentor, you might be delivering one individual course, a seminar or a workshop or a masterclass. It's all part of this greater learning journey of hopefully the spanning boundary professional.
But yeah, any questions to Balzan or Todd, please go ahead. We can also pick them up as we also go more to talk about the roles. But yeah, thank you. I think like it's a big program, but we're really, at least personally, really excited to finally kick it off after more than 1 year of preparations.
Yes, indeed, and thank you from my side as well to Balzan and Todd. And now me and Tony from Crazy Town, so I'm Mikko Korpela and Toni Pienonen from Crazy Town, we will be telling and going more in detailed to some of the roles and some tips, tricks, and tools that different persons attending to this program as a facilitator or a mentor or a guest speaker can utilize. We hope that we can bring some points from our experience on entrepreneurial coaching and training, which Crazy Town has been involved since 2004 already. So we operate this community of entrepreneurs and experts in Finland, and we have our members around 250 companies who are working in our facilities, and in our everyday job we try to create value for them by creating these kind of meaningful events and trainings. And we're very excited on this topic of spanning boundaries between universities and businesses.
Yes, but yeah, we left off at point number 5, and we're thinking that it should be, although Arno already said about the kind of a learning experience that we really want to create during the sessions and the program, and the learning arches, as well as this kind of a metaphor for structuring the learning journey. Well, we'd like to also maybe emphasize a little bit about how we also hope that the sessions themselves go, and what are the at least what we were thinking together with the people, that what are the things that need to highlight about the style and the general atmosphere of how they should run. And we basically crystallized our thinking into 3 elements: peer-to-peer, dialogue, and learning, as things what we as facilitators, as mentors, and also as guest speakers should be able to create for the audience and the participants. And first, what we mean by peer-to-peer, as you saw and heard, we're going to have people from different backgrounds, academics, businesses, intermediaries, but they are all more or less experts on their own right, or at least people who want to develop into experts with the help of the program. So keep in mind that everyone joining the program already has plenty of knowledge about, especially about their own local context, but also about models that work in that they know, things that they know about. So really emphasizing enabling this virtual learning, both in the universal sessions, but also learning within the national sessions that we're going to have. So organizing all sorts of situations, big and small, where people just can interact to one another, so that it's not just one talking head or 2 talking heads that are just delivering all the information.
The secondary thing that we want to emphasize is dialogue, because we want to offer these kind of plenty of opportunities for everyone to reflect what has been learned during and between the sessions. So in the sessions, it's good to organize these kind of small moments for dialogue, even though it might be that there is a quite tight schedule in certain field of expertise, but try to make it as a dialogue between the participants and the keynotes / facilitators. In dialogue, there are 4 principles. First of all, listening is very important, respecting others, waiting for your turn before making any quick assumptions, and of course, this kind of straightforwardness or voicing, so to say, where you speak out loud and directly your thoughts to the others. So dialogue is something that we treasure also in these sessions. And of course, because all participants are adults and experts, they are in the program for a reason. They want to advance their own real life project, these PAPs that were mentioned in Baltzan's and Todd's earlier presentation. And in other words, these PAPs, the reason why they need to be able to immediately implement and apply these kind of learnings into practice. And learning by doing is important, and we need to encourage the participants to have these kind of experiments and trials and pilots. So it's something tangible we want to see after the program as well. So there are plenty of these optional elements to participants to get customized how they want to participate in the program, and that's of course a key takeaway from here.
Yes, and if these 3 things are these kind of cornerstones about what each of you hopefully keep on the back of your mind as you implement the program together with us. Well, I'd also like to emphasize the one last thing that also actually Arno started the whole session with, is that this University Business Cooperation is a people's game. And let's approach it from the perspective that we're going to have dozens of international experts, each sharing an interest for developing UBC in the program. So this is bound to offer a lot of interesting matchmaking opportunities across Europe, across the world. And let's leverage that, I think, because I think like many people, at least from the Finnish side, who have joined this first cohort, when we'll be asking, why are you here? They're really looking for the opportunity to connect and network with people from other countries sharing the similar interests. So let's enable that as well. But yeah, let's on with the basics, the key roles also of like why many of you or your colleagues are here. So what are the key, these kind of enabling roles besides participants? We already talked about the participants' role in the activity, but of course, we need to have also people who are responsible for making this possible. And as was said, the facilitators. I would say that the facilitators are really the key people in the sessions that we're going to have. They are responsible for ensuring that everything really goes smoothly in the sessions. People have that interaction, they orchestrate the activity. And of course, as most of the facilitators are also responsible for delivering a lot of the content as well. So they are also wearing not just this kind of interaction and facilitation hat, but also this kind of an expert role in also the theme or the topic of the session they are having. And of course, since this whole thing is going to happen online via Zoom, we're also going to give some thoughts and tips from that perspective.
Then we have mentors, whose role is to support the participants with their PAPs. And mentors walk side by side and asking the right questions from the participant. And usually they are experienced boundary spanners themselves. The mentors can also connect participants with their own networks and connections, so they can apply more resources, more connections for the participants to successful do their PAPs and create something new. So mentors are at the other essential role during this whole experiment.
Yes, and if I would say that the facilitators are more of this universal, have this more of a universal perspective, the mentors especially, they focus with the national group of participants. I would say that's kind of it's kind of a clear differentiating factor as well. And also the speakers, as was said, we also have a few people who are especially focused, as this kind of bit like more coming from the, let's say, not from the inner group, but let's say more from the outskirts, as a bit of extra invited speakers delivering certain fireside chats and potentially short introductions to some of the topics in the sessions. So, but of course, as was said, it should be noted that some people in the program might be wearing multiple hats. So facilitators will be delivering, at least for the most part, a lot of the content as well in this kind of a speaker role. We also have people, and we might also have some facilitators who are also as mentors, depending on how you have organized it in your own organization. So yeah, keep this in mind. But yeah, let's now concentrate on especially on the facilitator and mentor roles of the people we have on board. And yeah, what are the facilitators expected to do? Well, as this kind of, as said, ensuring this smooth interaction during the sessions is of course one of the key things. But if I were to look at facilitators from this kind of a personal role points, like what kind of characteristics we hope that each of the facilitators have, is that they should be really open for really keeping their eyes and ears open for all sorts of connections between the participants themselves, connecting the dots to the whole program as well, you know, because from the participant point of view, they might be going from one session to another without really seeing the big picture. It's really up to the facilitator to also help to bridge this big picture together, and so that like yeah, to create like this kind of a smooth flow of the content. And yeah, of course, we will have the facilitators doing all sorts of different types of sessions. Some of these sessions are more about, more oriented towards having just content being poured at you in a more a seminar fashion. But we're also going to have workshops where there's more interaction, more about hands-on group work, etc. So the style, of course, of the required facilitation is big difference depending on the exact session and how it works like.
Yes, and for this, for example, Haptamo had a question like, is it possible to have a presentation by some of the invited speakers in pre-recorded format in case they don't make it in that specific date and time? So I would say that yes, it is possible. And again, depending on the structure and the content of the presentation and the whole thing that you are doing, but in general, I think it's an optional thing to do.
Yes, and keep it maybe, and then it's up to really the part of the facilitator's role to then especially tie it in together, how it's linked to the particular topic of the session and whatnot.
Yes, exactly.
Well, a couple words about the style or tips about the style and how to approach the role of the facilitator. And so it's really important, especially because, as was said, we're going to have Zoom as the tool for the sessions. So to make it possible that we're actually seeing each other, that there's this kind of interaction going on peer-to-peer fashion, it's really a lot of the facilitation roles is about really it's kind of things related to the tone and style. So for example, just simple things as reminding to people to keep those cameras on so that people are seeing each other's faces, really all in all the time encouraging people to ask questions, to voice out their thoughts, picking up questions from the chat as Mikko just now did, because especially if you have someone who's presenting, it's really often hard to keep track of the stuff that is going on in the online session. And especially if you are having external speakers doing like the short guests, keynotes or whatnot, then especially with them, helping them to connect their own content with the overall program, how it's linked. And of course, also making use of some helpful tools that this virtual work also makes possible. And we're going to give you a list of tips and tricks in a documented fashion, but really, as everything is in Zoom, Zoom has really great functions for the polls. That's a really straightforward way to do quick interaction, utilizing the breakout room discussions for these kind of short, small group discussions, the chat function, and then of course these collaborative virtual whiteboards that can really make a difference. And Mikko is now going to run you through this kind of example of a potential session and how the structure could go. So
yeah, and just to emphasize, this is just an example. You don't have to follow it literally, but this is something that we might, for example, do in our own sessions. Usually we start with an intro or a check-in at first, where people can, you can also share people to breakout rooms, as Tony mentioned, the Zoom function, where people can share some expectations about this upcoming session or have a poll about their expectations. Where they want to focus on. That's something that you want to, of course, know before you actually start the session. After that, you can again pick up some comments and bring up some relevant stuff into everybody's notion. So it's also important that you as a facilitator tell the participants how this particular session is linked with the whole program. So for example, if it is about creating a impact for your UBC or something like that, you make sure that you yourself understand how the session is linked, and also the participants does. So also it might be a good idea to either participate in the previous sessions or watch the recording of previous sessions if it's related to your topic. So make some kind of an intro and share the big picture with the participants. In the middle part, it again varies about the nature of your session. The sessions can be seminars, they can be masterclasses or workshops, and this influences how intensive the workshop or the session itself is, and whether it's more about talking, talking together and doing participatory work, or whether it's more for a lecture or a keynote speaker. But regardless to that, it might be a good idea to have a short breakout room discussions again in the halfway of the session to keep the interest of the people alive. And sometimes the audience might not be so ready to make those questions, so you have to also be prepared to be the first one to ask and activate the audience during the middle part. That's something that we've noticed. And finally, when doing this kind of an outro or the end of the session, it's good to wrap up what has been discussed, and of course bring up those kind of important dates or important issues related to PAPs or other materials. You need to emphasize also where you can find those materials. We will be having a website for that. So just to again, give a roadmap for the participants what happens next. So that might be a kind of a rough sketch or structure of a session to be made.
Yes, and it might of course require from the facilitator maybe potentially some messaging, for example, with the national mentors that, hey, in our session, these and these topics came up. So it might be a good idea to focus in the mentoring on these parts, etc. So yeah, of course, it's about really interaction also between the facilitators themselves and the mentors.
Yeah, and Zoom will be the platform for every session, doing it live. But of course, you can use your own favorite participatory tools like Mural or Trello or whatnot. So we will be making a list of it, but you can do quite a lot of things also just by using Zoom.
And of course, the style of the sessions is probably going to be a bit different, like depending on who's facilitating and whatnot. So, but overall, the one thing that really makes this, let's say, this kind of cohesive is, of course, the learning structure and the PAPs. And as Todd wrote in the chat, all the modules will be also recorded and made available for those who are not present. But yeah, then on with the, and please, thank you, Haptamo, for the question, and others, if you have any questions, keep them flowing. But yeah, then we have mentors, the other really key people in making the process of the participants and PAPs possible. And as a recap, as Todd also already and Balzan already explained, the mentoring is something that really happens with focus on the national group and there. So if facilitation is more often about this kind of universal sessions, then mentoring is really focused on the people from your own national group and with that set of people. And in the timeline, yeah, you can see on the lower there's the PAP, and then you have the dates that have been already put there. And as there was earlier a question about these specific dates, are these dates set in the stone? So no, these are not set in the stone. So if you as a national facilitator with your mentee, as a national mentor, together with your mentees in your own group, if you decide that, hey, this Tuesday 16th is not good for us, but the next day could be, yes, please. It's up to you to find a suitable date with your group of mentees to when to have your mentoring session. But we recommend that you somewhat stick at least with the rough agenda, because these have been set so that for example, for the first mentoring session, it's really about forming and will be the building blocks for your own PAP project based on the launch and the assignments. Then and the same thing happens for the rest of the mentoring sessions. So they're really designed so that they happen in a very strategic moments of the program. And yeah, do you have anything to Mikko add about that part?
No, I think as you mentioned, that the main thing is to foster your own group nationally and be there for them. Mentors are those kind of people who you can I think bounce ideas and spar a little bit about your PAPs, especially. And of course, the kind of the aim for the mentors is to ask those questions and ease up the PAPs to be better in the end of the program. But yeah, that's the role.
Yeah, I'd say it's very much, if you're familiar with, if your university or organization has a, let's say, a accelerator program and you have mentors for those startups, pretty much I think the same comparison works here, that people have some real life project that they are advancing. The mentor is there to be the mirror, the one who asks difficult questions and provides insight and really does this kind of spanning boundary work themselves as well.
We've noticed that best mentors open new doors. So usually best mentors can bring some resources or other stuff into the table. So I recommend to use those kind of people who have good networks and are eager to help.
Mm-hmm. And as was promised, each participants get those 8 hours of mentoring for their PAP during the program, plus the workshops. So it's again up for we were thinking the original idea was that the mentors and mentees would have these as group mentoring sessions. So it doesn't mean that you, as a mentor, you have to do, if you have 10 people in your group, you don't have to do 10 times 4-hour sessions, but rather 4 1-hour sessions that are group mentoring sessions. So because again, to enable peer-to-peer learning also within the national mentor group, I mean with your own national group. And although at least for the Finnish group, we were thinking, for example, that we would also have some kind of forum here in Finland. For example, a WhatsApp group is quite common between project participants and people like this, to have this kind of a supplement for more direct, faster messaging. So at least here in Finland, we're thinking of opening a WhatsApp group for this kind of additional discussion to take place. But this is again something that's really up to you as well, to how you want to augment the mentoring to happen. And I just noticed that we have, for example, our mentor who's working with us, Kari Mikkala from Urban Mill, is also in this call. So I'm really looking forward to working with him for our mentees, because Kari is a good example of an excellent, experienced mentor, as a really experienced boundary spanner himself.
Indeed. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the chat, because of course these roles that we are here presenting are very key and essential for the program. So if something needs to be stated, or if you have any questions or comments, please send us them and we can read them out loud here for this recording as well.
And as was said, we will be delivering this kind of handouts about the tools, and at least as a mentor or facilitator, I would have a lot of questions about where to put those materials and where is everything stored. It's these kind of things. But as was said, there's going to be a online platform for storing all the sessions, all the recordings and presentations. But then to augment this, you can also use multiple other channels with your own group. Is there any kind of, there's a question from Clara about if there is any kind of guideline for PAP. So I think like that's a very good question. I can put off our presentation and we can, I think we could pick up on that. Balzan, Todd, if you want to.
Yeah, happy to comment on that. Good question. The guideline for PAP, there is a syllabus that has been prepared for the PAP, which explains practically how it works. And there's also a structure that's already been created for somebody to attend to when they're making their or describing their PAP. So it's basically those two things. There's how it works is in the syllabus, and then practically what a participant will need to fill in. We've already created that with certain headings, such as your overall aim, and then the activities you'll undertake, timelines, stakeholders you need to get involved, etc.
And also just to quickly comment on that, Clara, all this information is actually right at this moment is being collected from already registered participants, and the participants that are going to register by the end of the by the deadline, which is March 6th, they would also need to provide us with all that information. So even they would already know a little bit what the structure would look like, and all these two elements that Todd has mentioned, they would be made available for everyone as well.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I think overall they are going to be quite different. At least I only have information about the Finnish participants and their PAPs, but I already know that they are quite diverse from each other. But I think like what's the same thing is, of course, the impact that they want to create.
Yes, I think if you are familiar with the framework of Mr. Davey and the UIIN, the 14 different types of UPC, we will be seeing at least 12 different types of UPC in the form of the PAP. So I'm looking really forward to those. Okay, any other questions or comments? Well,
yes.
One from Haptamo. Are participants expected to come simply with project ideas for PAPs or with a network and resources to execute it? Or are we supporting them with the networks and things like that? Todd, do you want to give any insights on that?
Maybe I can quickly start and then Todd can pick it up. Well, we most certainly don't expect participants to come in with already acquired funding, for example. So I think it all starts with the idea, but with already somewhat developed idea. Just like I said, we already now requesting information related to their personal application projects. And it's not only the description of the idea itself, it's really already about planning certain steps forward and then working together with the mentor, of course, on developing those, but also, for example, thinking about what kind of resources they may need for that. So whilst they may not have those resources yet, they would be required to already start thinking about it, but then also going through the entire cycle of the program, we will be touching upon different elements with S2B, for example, is facilitating the session on how to acquire resources. So I guess this would be exactly the time when everyone would need to think about how to acquire those resources or how to build a network and how to scan your external and internal environment and so on and so forth. So in that sense, we are going to be supporting them. And the role of the mentor is really just about, I guess, challenging them a little bit, but also providing some advice that is based on both knowledge and experience.
Yes,
and as we mentioned,
sorry. Sure. My thought is exactly about the like creating new networks and creating new possibilities. For example, international funding with each participant, finding new partners. And I think that's something that we cherish a lot. So if there is like these kind of possibilities that we see at certain participant could work together on a project proposal or something like that, we are sure to support that. So yes, definitely.
Yeah,
with
and maybe if I could just also jump in. As mentioned right at the top of the presentation, we're going to have people with, so participants with really quite different experiences with collaboration. So you might have somebody who's never collaborated before, in which case their project might be about establishing some sort of relations or finding potential contacts. So that might be their PAP, is to establish a relationship within the next 6 months. And that would be what they're working to. You might find some others who have well-established relationships, and maybe they're looking to either supplement that or find international contacts, as Mikko described. So the PAP is really whatever's relevant for the participant to achieve within this more or less 6 month period. But then it has to obviously relate to spanning boundaries, so some sort of crossing the border between university and industry.
Yes, and I think overall, for some, the PAP might be about this kind of everyday development they are doing in their job. And so the project, in a way, is about the iterative development of their own environment, initiative. For someone, that might actually mean that they have an idea, and as a result, they have a fully fledged project application that they send in. Or anything in between. So whatever is relevant for the people.
Mm-hmm. Are there any further questions? Well, we did a little exercise today trying to foresee what kind of questions we may receive. And maybe I can quickly touch upon one important element, which I do believe many would actually start asking questions related to that thing. So how the program actually would be hosted. So as Tony and Mikko mentioned, everything is going to be online and via Zoom, but also for the beginning of the program, we are looking to already have developed a platform that will be hosting not only the resources, let's say presentations or recommended reading material, but also all of the information related to the sessions themselves, as well as the links that will be bringing you to the Zoom sessions. And then just like it again was already mentioned, all the sessions will be recorded and again made available. But the overall idea is really to sort of have a one stop for everyone where these materials can be available.
I think, like, I have to say, your presentation was very thorough but it's thorough about the program. So.
That's always the conclusion at the end when there's no questions. Not that we've put people to sleep, but in fact, we've been very thorough in what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another thing to mention as well. Okay, I'm just being Valjean all here, trying to remember all the things. So for example, also our partner ITU is currently developing the participants handbook and program as a one, let's say, brochure or as a one document where all the information collected for the program with the description, what is PAP, what is mentoring, how it will all look like, who is the main contact point. So all these questions will also be answered in that participants handbook, which is of course is going to be available for the participants, but I personally think it's also quite a helpful document for all of us really, and for the ones who are going to participate in one or the other role, whether it would be a facilitator, speaker, or a mentor.
And there was a question from Clara. Is it possible to send some of the documents to the students in advance and ask them to read them before the sessions?
Yes, that would be distinctly possible. What we may look to do is to make them available through the learning platform that we'll be creating. So maybe Balzan can explain a little bit about the learning platform, but effectively the platform will be a central source of information for the participant, and they'll be able to access documents from the session, but I would say also before the session. Depending on the communication that we establish, I assume that we'll probably contact all the participants like 3 or 4 days before, just to remind them of the session. And in that, at that stage, we probably have the opportunity to just say, okay, and by the way, there's a pre-reading that we would like you to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so another quick comment from me, a few details regarding the timeline. So the deadline for submitting the registrations and also the details regarding their PAPs is officially March the 6th, but we already have quite a number of participants now who are now completing their PAP description. But as soon as we have a certain number of people who have already done it and we are through all of their applications, what we can definitely do is already to send this handbook, for example, to all of them. That would already require certain information. But of course, I think preferably would be to provide this information all together to all of the participants all at once. But if there is a need to maybe provide some additional detail, that most certainly can be done a little bit earlier.
So I have just one final observation from my side. I think how each facilitator and mentor should also approach this whole thing is, well, also think of what you as a want to achieve as well, because I think many of you have probably some kind of initiative being worked or upcoming project or whatnot. So you're also open to really advance those things as well together with the participants, because at least I hope that we can offer from the Finnish participants good collaborative partners for the rest of you.
Maybe a further comment just in respect to preparing the material for the sessions, for the different modules. We have obviously prepared the syllabus, and we've all spent quite a bit of time on preparing the different sections of the syllabus. And the whole idea, it's very Anglo-Saxon approach, is that the syllabus sort of defines the what will be covered in the session, gives the aims of the session. We'll be talking about the sort of methods you might be using, and you also have been provided with a template to in order to sort your slides and to organise your work. Now, those two elements alone, it might feel that it restricts the freedom of the speaker or the facilitator, but we really want to encourage, taking up Tony's point of really bringing the session to life and giving it energy. We want to encourage also to have your own flair and bring that into the session itself. So whilst there's certain topics that need to be addressed, you can approach it with your own methods. Okay, so that's something that we also do want to encourage, is as long as the specific topics are mentioned and it achieves the overall aim of that has been set for the syllabus, then really, again, try to bring in and bring to life your session, because it's, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. So the other thing is that you might want to reach out to the other partners, especially those who you wrote the syllabus with, and to see if they've got anyone or anything that they would like to bring in. That's another way of also giving it a little bit of life. I think as we've done today, hearing different voices and pulling you in different directions is really effective in keeping your attention. Well, I think so. I don't see too many screens on, but I think so. So just want to encourage that within your own session. The format is such that it's defined that there's a 90-minute session, and in some ways, ideally there'd be a 5-minute or 10-minute break in the middle. But for those who are consuming it later, who are not present in the course, they can always stop it if they need to, and things like that. It's a structure that we've got to work with. But again, just to reiterate, please bring in your own flavour and feeling into the program, because that's how it comes to life and that's how it's most effective. Yeah, good.
Okay.
I think.
Any final words? I think we are starting to be in the finishing line of this session. I think the most important thing is that there's quite a lot of information in this session, so please go back to the recording as you get it. If there's some stuff that is still unclear, or you need to remind yourself about how this program proceeds. Any other final words?
Yeah, maybe if I just to reassure everybody about the design of the program. Whilst we've been through a number of steps over the last year in bringing this all together, and at certain times maybe it felt quite a complex process that we went through. You can be reassured that the program that's going to be delivered is very much like a 6-month master program. It basically has sessions, modules. It has a keystone project that runs through it, and it has assessments. So it's not so different to running a master program, where you're invited as a speaker to address a specific topic. You come in, you do your topic, you cover the areas that you need to cover, and hopefully make it as engaging as possible. So you can be reassured that you probably have already interacted with this sort of a program before. It's not so different. We think there's a lot of smarts that we've really tried to bring into the program to ensure the best learning experience, as well as the best skill development, but at the same time very much in a way that that perhaps you recognise in a master program or an MBA.
I have one question. Sorry, I was late. I have some problems with my calendar, but I'm now here and I look the recording then. My question about that the course has also externalities, because there are plenty of people from different countries and regions doing something practical. And what we have been talking with Tony already before, that it would be great to some way link those things too, so that also those activities which are done in the personal projects, to concentrate sometimes to share information there, because I believe that these type of training programs are also platforms for starting something new between the partners. So question about that, have you been thinking about that, and how to do that in this context?
Really great question, and also a point that was made in there, and I totally agree. Ideally, what we would do is, because we have this unique opportunity at the moment, delivering it in a remote setting or in a remote digital way, is that we have quite a unique opportunity to bring people from across, participants from across Europe. And I think what we'll try to do, because this, again, this is a pilot program, which means there is a little bit of flexibility in the way that we will do it. I think the first PAP session will be specifically a national one, but I think we might look to do what you suggested, Kari, is perhaps also experiment a little bit with that. The hackathon day will be dedicated to their PAP and taking their PAP thought forward. So maybe that's the forum we could do it in. But I think it's a really good point. And between Crazy Town and us, and also Zenep from ITU, what we'll do is we'll investigate how we might be able to bring some of those elements in, because during the life of the program, once we've started, we're very open to feedback, and we're very open to hearing, whether it's participants or the facilitators saying, okay, I think this would work better, because that's the opportunity that we have in front of us, is that we do have the ability to customize it, and that's built into its design. So let's, I'd say Crazy Town and myself and Zanet, we can come together. So I'm TBS, maybe UIN as well. We can just have with a couple of weeks in, we can come together and just say, okay, so here's some elements that we might also look to bring in during the program.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
The great thing, one thing that we had last summer, a hackathon type of, I like the idea what you said, where Tony attended too. And I think the best part was there before the hackathon, when the mentors saw different range of projects. And that discussion between all these, it was so valuable. And I think that would be great here too. So that not only to look the own groups, but others.
Yes. My thought exactly. I think in the future we might have a pool of Spanning Boundaries mentors, or we might have a side program for just mentors or something like that. We don't know, but because many of the organizations are now connecting to and opening these kind of doors for this program, I think it would be really cool to have, well, this kind of a network of people who want to be involved in this type of project. So something to look up in the future, I think.